Welcome back to the Christchurch United podcast with Daniel Main and Alistair McClay. Our guest today is Diego Lavin, Christchurch United Academy graduate. Welcome to the show, Diego.
A real brief introduction yourself, Diego, who you are, how long you've been playing football, when were you at Christchurch United? Just give us that introduction.
Yeah. So I'm Diego Lavin. I play football. I've been playing in Christchurch United the last 8 years. I played various positions from winger to what I play now is left back, and I also play a lot in the midfield. And yeah, I'm in Spain right now, trying with football clubs. Yeah.
Great, that's awesome. And how old were you when you came over to Christchurch United, Diego?
So I was in the under 11 age group, and yeah, that's when I joined. I came from another club, Hull. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you've gone through the whole pre-academy, through the academy, or
Yeah.
up to the under
Yeah.
20s.
I progressed
Some
through all the
experience.
age groups. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So why did you choose to come over to Christchurch United right at the very start?
Yeah. So I was originally at Hallsville with the under tens, and I remember we played a game against what used to be Christchurch United, what was Christchurch Football Academy, and we got beaten quite badly. And I thought this looked like a really good club to be a part of, and so I came along, and I liked it a lot, and so I stayed. Yeah, it was that. I love the coaches, and the players were really good as well. It was a really good environment for me.
So even though you were quite young at that point, you still kind of saw what the
Yeah.
club was trying to do and what they were doing, and that's something that stuck to you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And my parents as well.
And so
Yeah.
what? Oh, your parents as well. Nice. And so what did you? So in that early period, that kind of pre-academy time, what were the things that you learnt that's kind of kept with you even to now?
Um. Well, yeah. So back then, when I first joined Christchurch United, we had a coach named Tetsu, and he was quite. I quite liked him a lot, and he taught us just a lot of the fundamentals of football, and um, yeah, how to apply yourself on the pitch and make better decisions, and yeah, he was quite hard on us as well, which I liked a lot. But yeah, it's a really good environment for player at that age group and that. Yeah.
And as you moved from that kind of a pre-academy phase into the actually academy itself, and then all the way up, into those 17s and 20s, what changed for you from a learning point of view or learning environments? Was there anything extra that you learnt or took hold of?
Yeah, definitely. So it started off from the fundamentals of um, ball control, 1v1s, stuff like that, and it just got a lot more complex. Like throughout the years, we've also had so many different coaches that are all really good, and yeah, so it's just gotten more about thinking before you get the ball, about the tactics of the game, and knowing how to analyze yourself and your team and the opponent, how to know if you made the best decision, and yeah, how to really look at the game and analyze it better. Yeah,
And of course, you spend a lot of time at Christchurch United, lots of trainings, like you said, lots of different coaches throughout your 8 years. Um, how did you also grow your passion for football as well? Was there stuff outside of Christchurch United? Was it all contained within the club? How did you continue to love the game?
yeah. So a big driving factor, obviously from the start, was my dad, who's had a big passion for football, and I got it from him. But yeah, throughout my time at Christchurch United, I've only grown that passion just because having um, players and coaches around me that are driving us constantly and they're really dedicated to the game just can only drive your passion more. So yeah, that's what I love about Crush United. Everyone wants to be there, and that can only really drive your passion more. Yeah,
Mm. And of course, you've kind of got the passion for the game and, love playing. And obviously, there's a competitive support out of it and learning, which is great. And then there's the other side as well, is kind of like your responsibilities and the discipline that you need to bring to yourself, to the game, and to the club. Like, explain some of those responsibilities and disciplines that you had to abide by, especially for yourself, to become better and keep motivated and keep that passion alive. Like, what kind of disciplines did you put in place to make sure that you were always on top of those responsibilities?
Yeah, definitely. So football is a game that requires a lot of those values that you can apply to life as well. So yeah, some of the disciplines like responsibility, respecting other players and referees and coaches on the pitch, and all about preparing before, being punctual, being able to work hard even when it's not going good. Yeah, um, yeah, a lot about that. A lot of like the values Christchurch United has as well: discipline, respect, responsibility. Like, yeah, those ones. Unity, passion. That's what football brings.
And of course, out of that, like you've mentioned, like one of those values is the leadership and the unity.
Yeah,
And you've captained many games at various different levels throughout those 8 years. Like, what was the feeling of kind of captaining a team? Like, what were the kind of the really cool things you had to make sure being a leader of the squad of the day? What skills and traits did you have to
yeah,
to get to that point?
yeah. Being captain's a big responsibility. So yeah, you just feel like players look to you a bit more, and you have to kind of know or think about what you need to be doing to help the team to make sure your players feel supported and feel like you are leading them and can help them. Yeah, help them win the game. Make sure the team is staying together. Yeah, I think that's some of the responsibilities the captain brings. And yeah,
Awesome. And like we all know, like football's a very much of a teamwork sport, and those values obviously bring people close together to get the best out of the group, whether it's in a game and training over a season and a cup run. But then you've also got the individual stuff as well. So was there any like individual skills that you had to like really work on yourself? Was there any like extra trainings you had to do to make sure that you're always ahead of the game? Like,
yeah,
explain some of that extra work you put in over and above your standard training session and hours on the field.
yeah. If you want to be the best you can be and stay at the top of the game, you just have to do a lot of individual work. So yeah, I've always been doing individual training, whether it's just technique in the backyard, dribbling, doing touches. I've got a net I bounce the ball against to work on my ball control. Also going to the football park, practice shooting, practice running, dribbling with the ball. Yeah, a lot of that is needed if you want to keep stepping up the game. Yeah,
That's great. And then so that you must have some really good self motivation to go for those high up level football roles. That you want to make professional, get out there, and of course you've made a decision to forge your own football pathway and move over to Spain, which is obviously a long way away from
yeah,
sunny Christchurch in New Zealand, but a great way to open up your networks and try your hand at a very different
yeah,
level of football. So, what's your experience like been like in Spain so far? Like, how's it gone so far since leaving New Zealand?
yeah. It's been great. It's been quite eye opening. Yeah, I've trained and played with various different levels here in Madrid. So far I've trained with like 4 teams. But yeah, I started off um, a team in like the second division just outside Madrid, and that was quite cool. Just like just in general training with all these teams that are of a good level, and being able to see how I compare and how what the drills are like, what the players are like, and the tactics as well. Like one of the teams that I trained with, um, their tactic is when they're defending, everything's man to man. When they press, so you just have to win your individual battles. And then once you're on the ball, you get into a position. So yeah, it's really cool to see. Yeah, and being able to compete at a decent level as well, at a high level where everything's faster. You have to. There's different skills as well that you're being tested on compared to New Zealand, which is quite cool. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to be quite adaptable, not
Yeah.
only moving to a different country, the language barriers, or maybe you might know French, Spanish,
Yeah. I understand.
and of course, you're like in a new team environment, new coaches, new players, new speed. Um, like, how are you? Are there days that you're just like, wow, there's so much going on. I need to work harder, or I need to slow down to think about this, or how are you coping with all the different changes that are going on,
Yeah.
and also trying to be so focused in securing a role at a club? Like, how are you dealing with all that?
Yeah, it's quite a challenge. Like I do speak Spanish, but there is a language barrier there because I'm used to being coached in English, and all of a sudden I have to focus on what I'm doing and also try to understand in Spanish because they speak quite fast to understand what the coach is wanting us to do. And if I don't understand it, I have to talk to the players. But yeah, being able to adapt to that, trying to because it's basically like a trial, like a training that I'm doing with these teams. So I have to constantly try to see how I can stand out, how I can make an impact. So the coach wants to see more of me. So yeah, it's quite cool and yeah, also a challenge.
Mm, yeah, at the same time. And so, what's the ultimate aim, Diego, in the next couple of months? Like, where do you really want to see yourself, like settling down and, yeah, have you seen kind of like a pathway there? Or are you still kind of looking at most clubs? Like, or what's the goal there?
Yeah. So these past last week and this week, I trained with a new team in third division in Madrid under 19s, and after last week, the coach said he was quite interested in me. So I've been looking at this opportunity, and there might be an option to stay for the season because they still have like 17 games left in their season. They're halfway through their season here. So yeah, it might be an option to stay here until May and then see what comes up next. And maybe if I stay in Spain, look for because this year is my last year with the under 19 age group, so I have to move up into the men's team next year. So yeah, I have to look at that option. If I stay, then I can keep going in Spain, maybe study here, or maybe go overseas again to like America to explore that option, studying at university
Yeah,
with a football scholarship. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So I suppose that it's a transition is on the horizon of going into senior football. You're right
yeah,
because you're getting that age where yeah, you have to make that step up, or yeah, you could go into the varsity, I suppose. So, yeah, it's all the experiences you must be getting. That must be weighing on your mind as well. To go, actually, at some point, I'm going to have to go into a men's environment full time. Not just
yeah, yeah,
playing a few games and see and back to youth. So, yeah, that must be quite exciting, but also another something just to think about of how do you prepare yourself for that kind of level.
definitely. Yeah, it's quite a step up.
Um, yeah. Um, so how does it feel? You've obviously been in New Zealand for quite a while. You've been in Spain for a little while. How does it feel? How does it actually feel to play for these big kind of Spanish clubs in those divisions? Like, yeah, what's your feeling like?
It feels amazing. Yeah, and yeah, like just be able to compete alongside these players. They're a lot more technical. It's just really nice to play at this level and feel like yeah, it's quite a big test. I'm constantly being tested. I can't switch off, and yeah, it's just like quite a transition. Even though I've only been here not too long, only like a month and a bit. But yeah, I've been loving it, every bit of it.
Awesome. Do you have any advice for current Christchurch United Academy players wanting to follow a similar journey to you?
Yeah, so I think the big thing is, I would say, is make the most of all the time you have to work on yourself as a football player. Like, don't take any of it for granted. Make sure every moment you have, you're trying to better yourself as a football player, whether it's doing individual work because it all adds up and can really help you make it furthest you can go as far as possible as a football player. So just really make the most of the time you have and don't take any of it for granted.
Great. And last question. So, in your opinion, why should players join Christchurch United?
Yeah. So Christchurch United is a club with an immense passion for football. Everyone, all the coaches, all the players, the community, they love football, and that's what I really like about Christchurch United. On top of that, we've got the facilities, some of the best in Christchurch. The the coaching staff really really good, really friendly, really highly qualified, experienced, and knowledgeable, and the methodology as well, the playing style. It's really good if you want to help develop your football. Just being able to maneuver the ball and play at that style is like moving the ball fast. And yeah, I think Christchurch United is just a really good place to, if you want to make it as far as possible with your football journey through the age brackets. Yeah, the environment as well.
Great. That's all the questions I've got. Daniel, do you have any extra ones you want to add in there?
Yeah, maybe just one. Like, what would be the biggest difference between playing in Christchurch and playing in Spain, in the
Yeah.
footballing sense?
So the first biggest difference I'd say is just the the speed they play, obviously. But like you're tested a lot as well. As soon as you get the ball, you're being put under pressure, so you have to kind of know what you're doing before you get the ball, more so than you do in New Zealand, and also being able to shield the ball when you're under that pressure is really important. And yeah, as well, they're quite technical as well here in Madrid, and so stuff like being able to put your direct opponent under pressure faster, because he might be able to make a good decision, and you don't want that to happen. But yeah, those are the biggest differences I see compared to New Zealand.
Cool. Is that us, is it? Brilliant, man. Cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I really appreciate your time, mate. I know you're a busy man and you're trying to forge a career, which we're all very excited to see and hear. And yeah, you support you all the way. But yeah, if some of those academy players listen to your journey and the hard work you put in, and now where you are now and where you'll be in 6 months and 6 years and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
it's quite cool to close the loop in a way. Which yeah goes back to that whole yeah, all those values, even having this conversation,
yeah,
even though we're not playing football on a field, it's part of it. So, yeah, mate, top marks for you to
yeah,
agree to do this. Thank you very
yeah.
much.
It's been
It's
great.
been cool.
I hope this helps in some way. That's cool. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure.